Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first show, Conscious Chat with Sandra Meehan here on My Time TV. Today, our special guest is Valisha, and she transitioned from a left brain engineer to a right brain intuitive by accident, getting nowhere after consulting tens of psychics. She studied and learned the subtleties of intuition. She shares her expertise in performing accurate psychic readings for romance as well as business. Vaishali predicts with uncanny accuracy on how things will play out in the future. Some examples of her predictions include the accurate description of a future boyfriend, girlfriend, and preventing a client preventing a client saved $150,000 from investing in a bad venture. She is also a fitness freak, has run several half marathons as well as full marathons. She likes to go out in nature on trails. Valisha is a host of the podcast, The Uncanny Link, where psychic meets metaphysics or science meets woohoo. She's also been a podcast guest on many different podcasts. And today we're going to be talking about psychic readings and how we can leverage to make decisions for the future. And I'm really excited to be here with our very first show of Conscious Chats with Sandra. And we're going to have an awesome time on this channel and on this show every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, where we get down and nitty gritty and have conscious chats, which gives us an awareness. It gives us an opening to understand that when we are fully aware, or we have the awareness, we're consciously thinking about our future, and we're consciously thinking about other things and how we can consciously change. Until we make that change on a conscious level, we can't do that. We're unaware. So this is not about saying that no one's awake. It's about helping you become more conscious, become more mindful, and become more aware of what's happening in your life right at this minute. So I'm going to bring up our guests for the day. Hello, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm really good. So I just for our viewers, and I'm not quite sure whether I actually pronounced your first name correctly again, would you just like to let people know who you actually are and how to pronounce your name?
Sure. My first name is Vaishali, and you can think of it as a fancier version of Shelly. So it's Vaishali, and the last name is pronounced as Nikhare.
Okay, I'm going to go get some headphones because I've got an echo. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I don't normally wear headphones. I don't know we've had a few techie issues today. So just to make so we don't have that echo for the viewers, I'm going to Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, my computer dropped out. It just died for some reason, and I've just had to jump back on. So sorry. We've got lots of techie problems happening today. So I'm really excited to have you on my show today, and thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with myself and the viewers that are going to be here listening either on the replay or on our live stream. And this is our very first show on Conscious Conversations, so it's awesome to have you as my very first guest on this brand new show that I have here. So would you just like to tell us a little bit about where you live and a little bit about what you do before we get into all the nitty-gritty?
Sure. So I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in Northern California, and I've been trained as an engineer. I have a degree in engineering, and I transitioned to becoming an intuitive or a psychic. And I do readings for people, mainly personal as well as business, and I kind of show people which path will take them towards success in terms of making a decision.
Yeah, I know when I first read your bio, and I came across we've met virtually. It's the first time we've actually spoken through a podcast challenge that we were doing together with a group of amazing other human beings. And when I saw your media sheet and what you were putting up there as to where you've come from to where you are now, it really truly intrigued me, because I just find it's so interesting that somebody that's got an engineering degree is now working and doing what you're doing, but you've got this ability to use the right brain and the left brain, but you said you found it by accident. So would you like to just to let the viewers know and those that are watching, what do you mean by how you found it, and in case there's somebody else out there that just might be in the same position as you?
Sure. So I was actually seeking answers. I was having some problems related to work, and I was seeking answers. So I decided to get help, and the help I decided to get was trying to call up psychics. And I called like one psychic, and then two, and then it went up to 5 and 10. And it kind of climbed up to around 30-ish. I don't know, it's around 30, 40. And when I went to that point, I realized that, oh my God, these people have no idea what they're talking about. I might as well learn this myself. So then I decided to learn it myself. And I got some books, and I started studying from books, and I started doing readings for myself. And the readings actually started to play out in real life. And once the readings started to play out, then I kind of went to finish them, and I started reading for other people. And then, of course, I kind of went out, and I found somebody who was like a specialized person in that particular subject. And he wasn't in the US, he was outside the US. So I kind of finished my skills with him, and it was all through email. So that's how I kind of got into it.
Quite by accident, and I guess you've never looked back.
No, I think it's amazing. It's amazing the amount of information you can get just by sort of peeking into the future and seeing which pathway is right for you, which pathway is not. It's almost like having a GPS in time. Like if somebody has used Google Maps, you kind of see, okay, if I want to go from my home to the airport, do I go like this route? Will there be an accident? Is there a detour? That kind of a thing. And you can do the same thing related to time. You can say that, okay, if I make this decision, then how will the path look further down the road? Versus if I make this other decision, how will things look? And you can use them for so many things. You can use it for business. Like, I used it at one time to go to a conference and see if it would be beneficial for me. A lot of girls who read with me, they use it for the guys they're dating. They want to know if the guy is worth it or it's a waste of time. that kind of a thing. People use it for looking for jobs, if the job is going to work out. So there's so many different things you can use these things for.
And have you got a history of psychic abilities in your family?
Actually, no. There is nobody in my family who is psychic or does this for a living or anything like that. It's just, I want to say that I would probably be the first person who's doing it.
And how did like having that engineering background and that which is very structured, how was that difficult to move across into that right brain, or do you use the two of them and bring the two together, or how do you still use what that engineering side of self and bring it into any of your readings?
So a part of it, so the left brain and right brain are completely different entities. The left brain works very differently. It's more like logical thinking. And I was, because of my education, I was trained to think logically. And the right brain, it works quite differently. It's more, I don't want to say it's illogical, but it's more like goal-oriented thinking. So instead of going from A to B in a straight line, the right brain just wants to know, like, what is my end point? And then the right brain will kind of carve out a way for you to get there. And it's more like connecting the dots, but not in a linear fashion. And so in the beginning, it was very different because I wasn't used to it. So I would kind of ask something and it would happen. And I'm like, no, I didn't ask that, but I actually did. So it was a little bit weird in the beginning, but then I learned how to think differently and how to phrase the questions properly. So even now, like when I get clients who read with me, the first thing we do is we just work on the question first, because once we get the question right, it's very easy to get the reading and what it means. But if you don't get the question right, then the reading is just going to show what you asked. And sometimes that may not be what you really wanted to know.
So I know I've got a lot of friends who are readers and who are psychics and have psychic abilities, and they do it just intuitively. They can just read without a question. Is that the same as what you do, or do you just you want people come to you specifically for a question, or do they come for a general reading?
So the general one, I don't really do that many general readings. I can do them. So the general reading would be, like I did some recently in the last 3-4 weeks, and people just wanted to know, like they just wanted to test things out. And what they asked is, so what will happen to me this week? And I would give them a reading. Now, if the week was going to be insignificant, then the reading is not going to show something exciting. So then they'll come back and say, hey, nothing happened. But listen, nothing happened in your life anyway. So that's what the reading will show. But if you got into something more specific, then it just becomes a lot easier to read and a lot easier to put the context in. Because a reading is all about context. And if you don't have the right context, there could be like millions of interpretations. Like let's say that I say that I heard a loud bang. So you get the message that I heard a loud bang, but you don't know what the context is. Could it be that you dropped something on the floor? Could it be that there was an explosion? Could it be there was a car accident? Or could it be that someone just turned the volume up and there was a bang on YouTube? There's so many interpretations. So you have to know the context. It just becomes a lot easier to interpret what the reading is trying to say.
And do you when you read, do you connect with a higher source, your higher self, or who do you connect with to get to help you bring these through? These are just questions that people have asked me to ask you, some of them.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. I didn't know we have an audience, but mainly to the higher self and to the source or the universe or the supreme being or whatever name you call it. That's how you get the information, because all the information is up there. It's just a matter of getting it transmitted to the right person.
Awesome. So how long does it take for a prediction to play out?
That's a really great question. So, as far as the prediction playing out, it can take as little as a few days or a few hours, or it could take as little as a week or a few weeks. It all depends on what kind of questions people are asking. So, for instance, if somebody asks that, hey, what's going to happen to me in the coming week? So, most likely it's going to take a week or so to play out. But if somebody asks a really like vague questions like, will I sell my house in the next 5 years? Then it's going to take a long time for the prediction to play out. So when people start with me, I ask them that, listen, ask something tangible which you can see it play out in a week, 2 weeks, or a month. So that way you also can get the faith or the belief that, it's actually working. And then, we can diversify into whatever it is that you want. But if you start with, will I sell my house in 5 years? Are you really going to wait 5 years and then come back to me after 5 years?
Yeah, and that's so people come. So you have people that come back every week wanting to know what's happening in their lives, or every month, or.
So there's different varieties of people. Some of the people, they read with me like periodically, like sometimes, a couple times a week, couple times a month. Some of them even come like couple times a year. I think it's all based on what it is that they're working on and what information it is they are seeking. Sometimes when they're in a difficult situation, they read with me like a couple times a day as well. Some of the clients whom I started reading with when I started like 6 years ago, they are still reading with me. So their frequency changes. Sometimes it's a couple times a week, sometimes it's a couple times a month, but they're still with me. So it's amazing.
So, and how do they react if, or what's your strategy? Because like sometimes, well, I believe that we can have a reading, this is just my belief. You could read for me today and say that this is what's going to happen, but if I go off that path, it doesn't happen. So do you explain?
So
do you explain
sure,
that to people?
That's a really great question. And that's where it comes down to making a decision and taking a certain path. So if you are at crossroads, then, you have a choice or a free will as to, do I go this way or that way? And either way you go, the road is going to be different. Can you know that beforehand? Yeah, intuitively you'll know, because if you go the wrong way, it may feel like, you may not feel that it's the right thing to do. Whether or not you choose to do it, that's up to you. But I think intuitively one of the paths will feel more right, but with the reading you can definitely verify and see which one is going to be right. And I'll just give you a small example. This is when I started reading.
Sure.
So when I started reading, this was a while back now, and I would just read for myself. That's like when I was really starting out. So I would just read for myself, and then, I would narrow down the time frame because I wanted to see the readings play out. You asked earlier how long for a reading to play out. So I would like to see the readings play out. So I said, I'll narrow it down to like a few hours so that I can test. The engineering mind, it always wants to test and verify. So I would go to the gym in the mornings and I would say, okay, I'm just going to just test out and see what's going to happen in the gym. And if the reading tells me what's going to happen and it happens, then, I've verified it and it's working. So I would do that. And I did that for like 2-3 days a week. So by the end of the third or fourth day, I got really mad. I'm like, how can the readings predict what's going to happen? I'm going to change it. So then I would have like cardio days as well as weight days. So on cardio days, I would do either running or go on the Stairmaster. And on weight days, I would lift weights or go to a class, like a group class, which they don't exist at this time because of COVID. But so that was supposed to be like my cardio day. So I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do this morning. If the reading says that I'm going to go on the treadmill or I'm going to run, then I'll do the Stairmaster. And if the reading says I'll do the Stairmaster, then I'll go and run. So does anybody want to guess what happened? Because the reading was right and I was right.
Wow. So that's how you use it in your everyday life. So when you're reading for yourself, that's what you do. You test it all the time, or do you still bother to test, or do your clients test, or do they do you still test?
Yeah, I still test. I still test like options.
And I ask you that because I know you're an engineer, so it's like yeah, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, sure. So I still look at different scenarios and see like what will happen if I go this way versus that way, sort of a thing. And the clients who've been reading with me for a while, they kind of do the same thing. They are like, okay, so if I go route number 1, what will happen? If I go route number 2, what will happen? And a good example of that is, for instance, if somebody is looking for a job, they'll say, hey, listen, if I stay in this job, will I make more money? Or if I go to this job number 2, will I make more money? And if they decide to stay, like somebody decides to stay and they get laid off, they get a nice severance and then they take up job number 2. So lots of things are possible.
that is so right. So what were the experience with the first few clients that you had? What were your experiences? What's been the most amazing experience, and what's been the worst experience? If we can go from one to the other.
Sure. So let's see. What's the worst experience? Let me go to the better ones and then I'll come to the bad ones.
Okay.
So the better ones are people who come back and say that the reading actually played out. And I'll give you an example of one person. So this person, he was looking for his future girlfriend, and then I showed him how he would meet her. It was a reading I did via email. And I wrote in the email that he would meet her in a place like a very small space to move sort of a place. There won't be much room to move and it will be dimly lit or very little lighting. And I said that, it's you'll have a very short amount of time and there could be something related to education involved in that meeting. So what happened is the guy actually met that lady in an elevator, so it was very little room to move, and it was dimly lit, and she was carrying books, so it was related to education, and they had a small conversation because there was only so much time. So that's how that particular reading played out. I didn't know they were going to meet in an elevator. Whatever information I got, I gave to him, but it just turned out it was an elevator. So that's one of the good examples. And I think you asked about one of the bad ones. So I'll give you a few examples for that. So there was this gal and she was working on a real estate transaction. And she came to me and she was all ha-hoo, half-puff, this kind of an energy. And she's like, okay, so we have to close this transaction tomorrow. And I said, listen, I don't see it closing. She said, yeah, but this investor's money is involved, that investor's money is involved. And I said, listen, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it closing. So she kind of hung up the phone and, she disappeared. Then she came back after 1 year and she said, do you remember me? I said, no, because I won't remember someone if I've just read them just once. She said, you read me like almost a year ago and you showed me that transaction wouldn't close. I said, yeah, I remember that reading because it was distinctly saying no. She said, yeah, it turns out you were right. The transaction, of course, did not close. But, at the time, she wasn't really quite ready to hear it. So because it's a little bit further down the road, sometimes you don't have the right reference. She didn't have the reference that it won't close, but I could see through it. So she wasn't ready to hear it, but, she had to experience it.
And well, I just love how you explained that, because she wasn't ready to hear it, but she had to experience it. And that at times can be a wake-up call in, no matter whether we're having a reading or whatever we're doing in our lives, because we're often not ready to hear something, but we have to experience it to be able to hear it. And I think when as I'm not a reader, but I know a lot of my friends that are readers, they deliver a lot of stuff to people and they're just not ready to receive it. They come to them wanting answers, and you give them the answers that they're looking for, or the answers to their questions, but sometimes it's not what they want to hear.
Definitely, there is always people who are wanting to hear something and they just want us to go and say it. And I tell them that if that's what you want, I'm not the right person for you. So it's better that you go somewhere else, because I'm only going to stick to what I see and I'll give you that information, because I have no selfish motive in what's going to happen in your life. If you came to me asking for advice on what I see, then I just give you that. Whether or not you are ready to hear it, it doesn't really become my problem.
And that's, you're just a messenger, and you're just the deliverer of the message that they're asking the answer for. And what I feel is also important is that we can often take wanting to know without wanting everybody else to answer our questions, without actually going deep inside and sometimes answering ourselves. We can get into a position of anxiety over things, and that stops us, and we go outside looking for questions, whereas we took answers. But if we took some time to come within, we could answer ask the more important questions and get a much better outcome than just continually asking somebody else. Do you get a lot of people that just ask silly questions? Or
I wouldn't say silly questions, but what you said is kind of right. I think deep down, people know the answer. They are just looking for validation on whether the bad thing is going to happen or the good thing. As far as silliness is concerned, I think if you tell them something they're not prepared to hear, then they'll ask you a lot of questions around it to verify whether that is true. And if everything supports the theory, then it probably is. But they'll still keep on asking.
Yeah, and that's so true. So can you give me an example on how some of your love readings have played out? I know you just did, but have you got any other ones there? And what I liked in that one, that example that you gave us in the elevator, like you said, that there was a small dimly lit room, limited amount of time, and we that receive readings sometimes have to look outside the box and be prepared for the universe to present it in any way, where we can narrow it down, think it's going to be in a nightclub, a small room, or this and that, but we have to be open to how it's going to show up.
Definitely. I think I could pick up a few more examples. So one of them, it showed that the lady would meet the guy where there would be like lots and lots of lights and stuff. And it just showed like a brightly lit environment. And where she met him is, she met him like at a conference where there was just like huge amount of lighting.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I can't see you either. I've lost you on screen. So we'll continue to talk, and we'll just use the audio.
Okay.
So we can.
That's fine. So that's one example. Other example is there was this lady whom I predicted that she would meet the guy at a place where there won't be enough time to meet. And I told her that something would kind of cut the meeting off, and there would be something related to a bar or something related to wine or alcohol involved. So what happened is she met him at a restaurant, and he was working at the bar, and they had to cut the meeting short because the restaurant was closing. So she had to leave because the restaurant was closing. So that's how that meeting happened.
Awesome. And how do you use your readings in your own life? How do you use it in your everyday life?
So in my everyday life, I kind of look at a reading and see what it's trying to show me. And if I see that something difficult is coming up, then I'll ask for a way out. I'll just phrase the question differently. or if I have to make a decision, that's really where I kind of primarily use the readings. Like when I have to make decisions, I kind of see like, should I go to this conference? Should I not? Should I go? Should I not? And those readings are the ones which are most helpful, because not all the conferences we go to are, full of life and something happens to move us forward. Some of them may turn out to be not a good use of time. So I use them a lot for attending meetings, attending conferences, going to events, outside, taking courses. So it will show me which one is a good course, which one is a good conference, which one's a good place that you can, meet more people to move yourself forward, that kind of a thing. That's really the primarily way I'm using them at this time.
And how have people used it in their business?
So as far as the business is concerned, people use them to make decisions. Like the guy, I think you read, the guy who was this particular person, he was working on a deal related to emeralds. And he came to me for a reading, and I showed him that he was going to lose the money. So it was a little difficult for him to believe, because he had like 150 grand at stake. And then what he did was, the guy with whom he was working, this person was going to fly to Australia to get the emeralds. So he just asked this person to produce the plane tickets. And the guy was not able to produce the plane tickets. So he stopped the deal. So otherwise, he was just about to hand him the 150 grand. So that's again like for making a decision, should I move forward or should I not? Should I do this? Should I not?
Yeah, and it's like having your gut instinct verified. And I know sometimes when I don't go with my gut, I really just blow it, and it's just like I should have gone with my gut. And if I'm not quite sure on my gut instinct, I will, if it's something big that's happening in my life, I will go and have a reading around it. And normally it does always seem to pan out that my gut instinct is right. But it's like you said, having that validation from somebody else and knowing that it's okay, that you're right. It gives you a little bit of self-esteem and confidence that you are making that right decision, and still stand in your power without giving your power away.
Yeah, definitely.
So what does your family think about what you do?
Actually, in the beginning, it was they thought it was a little bit different. Now they ask me to look into things and say, hey, so what's going to happen related to this? What's going to happen related to that? I also do some lost object readings for them. So now actually they use me as their guide.
Well, where can people find you if they wanted to have you do?
So if you
international readings, how do people from, say, Australia connect with you over in the US?
Sure. So I have a website, and if they go to my website, they can find me, and I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, but you can also Google psychic space Vaishali, that's psychic, and then Vaishali, and then my website will show up. And you can book a reading via my website, either by phone or by email. I don't really do that many Zoom readings because I prefer not to see the person. It gives me a more neutral perspective, because I can see the reading, what's going on. I don't really need to see them. I don't need validation from them. I know what I'm doing. So they have to be a little bit more open to listening. But yeah, they could do like a phone, email, or a chat reading. And I also have a free weekly forecast. They can sign up for the forecast on my website as well.
I'll put all that information in down below and above when we get off this call. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the viewers before we end our show?
Sure. There's one last thing I forgot, which is I also have a free reading for the description of your future boyfriend or girlfriend. So if somebody is seeking a love reading, they can sign up through that link and get that description. And I would like to say that whether or not you seek the reader, you should always follow your gut, because it's really navigating you in the right direction.
And yeah, and that's a beautiful way to finish that. It's because you're just a messenger, and it's how we interpret it, and that how it plays out. And it's up to us to either, we can change it the instant we leave, or decide, no, that's not what I'm going to do. And we can't come back and blame the reader, because you're just a messenger. It's how we can change our lives in any instant. We can change the direction we take in any instance. And we have to remember that we're ultimately the ones that are in charge of our future. And what happens in there. We can get advice from a reader, we can see the future, but if we choose to take a different direction, whether it's subconsciously or unconsciously, things just don't play out the way that they were meant to.
Yeah, that's so very true.
Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me today on our very first show, and I would love to have you back, and we'll do a little bit, dive a little bit deeper when we don't have any technical issues we've had trouble getting on, we've lost sound, then we had an echo. And then I lost you on video, you're just not there, but I have your sound. So I don't know what's happened. It's been a bit of a challenge today, but thank you so much for taking the time for joining me. And I look forward to chatting with the viewers over here on My Time TV on Conscious Chats with Sandra next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was nice to be here.
Bye.
Bye.